Gentle Tornado. Welcome, man. How are
What's
you?
up? What's up? I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. How was your weekend? How's
Good,
everything?
man. Yeah, good. Busy. I did like a lock-in with teenagers, so that was crazy. We're
Talk to me
absolutely,
about that.
yeah, we're absolutely riding, bro.
Of course we are.
How you doing?
I'm doing amazing. Had a workout. Just had a big breakfast to get ready. Have some rosemary tea. Like you said, I'm riding as well.
Let's go, baby. We can't be stopped. Like, listen,
Never.
I don't even know. We're just riding. We're riding regardless of what happens. So
Exactly.
that's how I feel,
So talk to me about Saturday, man.
dude. So Friday was wild. So
Oh, Friday. Sorry.
yeah, so 7 p.m. we get there. It's crazy. Like we got the dance music on, kids are going crazy. We're checking everybody in. Vibes are high. Vibes are high. We're like every person that's volunteering is like, I don't think we're gonna make it. Like, I don't think we're gonna be able to make it overnight. And we start just going ham. We start playing football, and
Hmm.
we start a football tournament.
Hmm.
And my team ends up winning. We're playing in the street. We're literally playing at night in the street. So it's like the worst conditions on your feet and knees and legs. And so immediately that was probably like a couple hours. We won, and dude, we were all tired. We're all like super tired. We're like, oh man, this is this is gonna be a long night. And so then, anyways, we just kind of hung out. We played some 3v3 basketball tournaments, played some like not like Foursquare, but there's this different game that they play. And I just kind of walked around, got some water, rehydrated, drank a Red Bull, which I didn't want to, but I was like, I just think I'm gonna down it right now. I
Yeah.
probably, dude, I probably haven't had a Red Bull in like 3 years, so I just downed a Red Bull. I was feeling all right, and then at midnight, we got to go to the trampoline place. So we went to like an indoor trampoline park. And so that was the last 7 hours, was like 12 to 7 a.m. was at a trampoline indoor place. And so that was a lot of fun. I'm definitely not a trampoline guy because I tore my ACL when I was younger. So I kind of do my best to stay off trampolines. And it was a lot of fun, man. The kids had a good time. And honestly, it went by super fast. I wasn't even, I was tired, but I wasn't like at any moment gonna fall asleep during the night. So I was real proud of myself because I had minimal caffeine
Hmm.
during the night, especially, and just drank a bunch of water. And yeah, man, it was a good time. It was a good time. I was absolutely wiped. So I'll walk you by. So since Saturday, 7 a.m. rolls around, I head home. Saturday morning cartoons. I was like, there's no way. I thought I was gonna be able to do it. I was like, there's absolutely no way. Luckily, I had already texted Dan and Omi and told them, hey, look, dude, I don't know what's going to happen after these 12 hours. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to ride or not ride. Part of me wanted to stay up the whole day and just sleep at night. But dude, I got home, I took a shower, and I was done. I was like, I literally can't even I physically can't have a conversation with my wife right now. She's like, tell me about it. I'm like, I can't. We cannot have a conversation right now because I don't know. I just can't. My brain's not functioning. And so I went to sleep. I fell asleep for like 5 hours. I think I woke up at 1,
Oh, wow.
and then I was just a zombie, bro. My whole body hurt. Like,
Mhm.
imagine. And I work out 5 to 6 days, most of the time 6 days a week. So like I'm pretty like not
No,
in
but you were
shape, but
active for like 8 hours.
yeah, but dude, nonstop with like 6 to 12th graders. So like I normally work with high school kids, and so they have a lot of energy, but they crash, right? They're getting to that age where they'll crash after enough working out. 6 to 8th graders don't crash. They're just demons, and they're made of something else that I don't even understand. And so
Yeah.
that was fun because I got to watch them all go crazy. I talked to one of the other youth leaders, and we just talked for like 3 hours, got to know each other. So that was really cool during the lock in. But yeah, man, Saturday I was down. I was down for the count, bro. I was down. Even when I woke up at 1, I was like, honey, I
Mhm.
told my wife, I was like, I can't function right now. I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on. I'm doing my best, but I just feel like I got hit by a brick wall. And I didn't really feel good until Sunday morning. I slept for probably about 9 hours, which I
Wow.
only normally sleep for 5 hours. So that was a huge win.
Mhm.
And, still a little sore, but I worked out this morning, and we're
Mhm.
back at it. You know what I mean?
Of course you
So
are. Yeah, I love that. So what's behind the lockdown? Why did it happen?
it's just a good it's like a good just like a good place, safe place for the kids to go and play and hang out with other teens. And I think we had 91 kids, which is pretty
Wow.
dope. Like that's
Yeah,
quite a bit of kids. And
that probably tired you out as well. Too many
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah, try rounding up 91 kids in the same room is definitely tough. But they're all really good kids, right? And so it's good to get other kids and put them around good kids and have that, community. And I think that's kind of what a lot of life is about, is having community in your life and having, a solid community, because some people don't have like a family or a strong family. And so getting that community outside of that is kind of what we're pushing for these teens, is and teach them really lessons that they can, learn to take in their life.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, man. So, talk to me about you. Who are you? What's your story? Um, and what journey? Well, I guess what took you to the journey you are in today?
All right. Okay. I'll do it as fast as possible. So, um, my name's Dominick Adams, aka Gentle Tornado. And, at a very, very young age, I mean, I was crazy. I was crazy. There's a reason I had the nickname Tornado. I didn't have the nickname Gentle Tornado my whole life, but I had the nickname Tornado. My great grandparents used to call me that probably when I
Gentle
was.
is new.
Yeah. So I can touch on that later. Um, But Tornado was always what I was called. I was called, when I played sports, they called me Tornado because I was just crazy, man. I would go nonstop, 110%, and then I could fall asleep anywhere. And that was kind of the best thing, is I would literally go so hard and then just I could fall asleep on the ground. It wouldn't even matter. And so that's why my great grandparents were a huge influence for me growing up. They called me Tornado, and it just kind of stuck, man. I have crazy energy that I was blessed with, and my life mission is to give that to the world, give that energy to the world, and help people through that energy that I feel like I've been blessed with. I have a very unique perspective on life.
Mhm.
And so, I played multiple sports. I played 4 sports growing up. I wrestled, I played lacrosse, I played baseball, I played football. And that was basically my entire life, was playing sports. I was the biggest football fan. That was my dream growing up, was like being in the NFL or playing college football. And, the other sports were incredible for sure. I would say wrestling was easily the best sport. I tell everybody to put their kid in wrestling. It taught me the most lessons out of any sport. But
Why?
my passion, what?
Why?
So, wrestling is it's you versus you every single day. And so in a traditional team sport, like most sports are team sports, I guess, besides maybe like tennis or like a martial arts, probably, is most sports are a team sport. And wrestling, you do have a team, but I mean, it's all down to you, right? Especially when you go to tournaments and stuff. It's you. You're the only person that, is going to beat yourself. And so there's a lot of things. There's cutting weight, there's being in shape. I mean, you really have to push yourself to a different level, because most of the time, if you get beat, necessarily it could be 50% skill, but it also could be 50% that you're not in enough shape to beat that person. And so you got to dig deep to go out and run to be
Mhm.
able to beat the next person in the next match. And so I just learned a lot of things. I also hated wrestling. So that was another thing, right? I hated it, but I kept doing it because
Performing.
I just knew how good it was for me.
Mhm.
And I always had like a crazy work ethic growing up, because I was never the strongest. I was never the fastest. I was never the biggest, but I was skilled. And so I knew that if I worked hard enough, that I could outperform other people that maybe had that talent or had those things like their speed or height. And so that's why I did like wrestling, because the harder I worked, the better I was. And that's a lot of things in life, is if you work hard enough and you realize the skill that you might have and you double down on that, you really can get a lot of places. And I think that's a big motivation for me. So I grew up playing 4 sports, and then I got into high school, played primarily just football, and I wrestled and I played lacrosse. So I stopped playing baseball. And yeah, kind of a crazy thing was my sophomore year of high school, I almost quit football because my varsity coach. So I was on junior varsity my sophomore year, but I was good enough to be on varsity. And so our team was really good. We were like number 2 in the state of Nevada every year. And so to be moved up to varsity, you had to be very good at a sophomore level. And I remember going into a meeting with the varsity coach at the end of our season to move me up for playoffs. And, he said to me, he said, I was too small. He said, I'm good enough to play on varsity, but I'm just too small. I didn't work hard enough. And he was going to move this other kid up that wasn't even a starter on our JV team, but he was 6'5". And so that kind of burned into my memory, and was a big, like a fork in the road for me, because I went home. I remember crying, telling my dad, I was like, I'm just going to quit football and I'll play lacrosse. Like, I'm really good at lacrosse. And, my dad knew that my dream was to play college football. So he convinced me to stay in football.
Mhm.
And actually I ended up quitting lacrosse, which is kind of ironic, but so I stayed in football. I worked super hard that summer and that off season, and I got real big. I got strong. I got even better because I just wanted to be undeniable, right?
Mhm.
The situation was I couldn't control my coach, but I can control me. And I can control exactly what I did to show that, hey, look, I got the skill. You already know that, but I'm going to show you I'm willing to work to be whatever in your eyes is a starter. And
Mhm.
that year, my junior year, I started. Senior year, I started both ways. I was very good. I was all conference, and then I went to play college football. And that was crazy. That was a dream of mine. There's like 3 million high school football athletes every single year in the US. And there's only like 64,000 college football athletes. So it's a pretty crazy stat. And, the fact that I had achieved that and accomplished that was something that was really close to my heart because it was a goal that I had my entire life. And I played football since I was 5 years old. So quite a long time. College was different for sure. I left home. I moved to California,
Mhm.
and yeah, football was wild, man. You learned a lot about yourself. You're on your own. You have to work a different level. I mean, college sports is crazy. I would tell anybody that you have to have the strongest work ethic and you really have to love it. So that was a big part of my journey was learning that, having coaches, paying to go to school. I paid for my college and, really wanting to be there. So when I went to college, I went to what's called a junior college in the US, and that's basically a 2-year university to then transfer to a Division One school. And I wasn't aware that people that go to junior colleges are normally D1 material, but they don't have the grades. So I was
Mhm.
playing against a level of talent that was nothing like I had ever faced before. And so that was a shock. That was like a culture shock for me, which mean I had to work harder, right? Something that I wasn't opposed to. So I worked hard. I played. I got all conference my second year. I had a full ride scholarship to a D1 school, and I tore my ACL the second to last game. My ACL, MCL, meniscus, in my right knee. And the school that I had a full ride to pulled the scholarship the next morning. And
Wow.
so that was tragic. That was probably one of the worst moments of my life, but also ended up being the best moments of my life. So I went down a pretty dark path. I was depressed. I got addicted to pain medicine for a few days and just was super lost, man. Had no real support because I was on my own. And I remember like none of my friends coming to visit me or none of them calling me. And so that was like a dark time I went through on my own, which was great because it taught me so much about myself. Anyways, then I moved back home to Las Vegas. I immediately realized like I wasn't going to play football in the NFL, which was completely fine. Um, and I started working for my dad. And then my wife, my wife now, we were like Snapchatting or something. I don't know, nothing serious. And she tore her ACL. And so I
Mm.
reached out to her immediately and I was like, hey, listen, when I tore my ACL, it was the worst time ever. Do you need anything? Like I'm here for you. And that was kind of the start of our relationship. Because I just remember how hard it was for me. Worked for my dad for 9 years. Absolutely hated it every single day, but he gave me the best life growing up. So I wanted to give it right back to him, give what he gave to me and help him with his business as much as possible. I ended up being really, really good. And it was interesting because I didn't like it, right? So when you're really good at something you don't like, you realize that you have the skills to go do something else. And part of that is because I went to a lot of leadership courses when I was pretty young, probably like 21, 22. And that's where my passion and the gentle tornado, persona and brand came from. So I went to this leadership course called Rapport Leadership International, and one of the courses that you go through is called Eagle Quest, and you get a warrior name. And what the warrior name is, the first word is something that you aspire to be, and the second word is something that you've always been. And so, gentle and softness and my, heart is always something I've always wanted to be more of because I have this energy, and so I have to work on being softer. And so, gentle tornado just worked out perfectly. Um, yeah, fast forward, got into Web3, built a brand around positivity while I was working for my dad. So I was working, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 hours a day doing the brand, being in spaces, just being consistent. I'd already known how to build a business because I'd worked for my dad. So I was just transitioning those things into the brand, Live Hyped and Gentle Tornado. And so, yeah, it was crazy, man. I just been on a journey to spread positivity where my motivation behind my foundation, are we going to get into that later, Snuffalo?
Of course.
Okay. So so I'll just cap it there. Like, now this journey's been crazy. And so that's kind of my origin story.
Yeah, so talk to me about the foundation. What's behind it? Why does it exist?
Yeah. So um, our mission is to empower teens to thrive by nurturing emotional intelligence, fueling positivity, and inspiring growth. And so what I've always wanted to do is help people, because the issue with most like mental health organizations or nonprofits is they focus on the issue, which is suicide. My mindset is that the issue is not suicide. The issue is the things that come before suicide, like not knowing what gratitude is, not knowing what positivity is. And so these teens and these kids at such an early age don't learn these things. They don't learn the emotional intelligence that's needed in life. And so then when they go to the dark place, let's say, get depression and go to thinking of thoughts of suicide, well, then they don't know how to handle it. But
Of
if you've
course.
been rooted in those other skills that I was talking about, self-awareness, empathy, compassion, well, then you can at least have those skills to get out of that. And so I taken a much more proactive approach, and that's been my, mission for the foundation. But the reason I started it was about 5 years ago, I used to volunteer on a teen leadership class quite a bit. I probably volunteered on 6 or 7. And I used to do it with my best friend who started Hyped with me, my
Mhm.
brand. And we would go in and anyways, we'd be mentors, kind of for the kids. And there's one instructor, and in every single course, there was a process called cross the line. And what it was is you put a rope in the middle of the class. Everybody stands on one side of the rope, including me and my best friend. So the only person not involved is the instructor. And it starts out with, have you ever had sour Skittles? Right? Yeah, everybody crossed the line or whatever. Then it's like, have you ever done drugs? Okay, let's say half the people crossed the line. Well, then the next question was, have you ever thought about committing suicide? And every single kid in every single class crossed that line,
Wow.
including my best friend. And so I was the only one on the other side. And so you can imagine not only the power that I felt to be grateful that I was the only one on the other side, but the sadness to see all those kids and to see my best friend of 20 something years on the other side, and just realize right there in that moment that, wow, this is a real issue. This is a real problem that you would never think 90% of these kids have thought about suicide, but they've all thought about committing suicide. And then COVID happened. And like, mental health is at an all-time low. And so that's kind of the motivation behind the foundation.
So you recently quit your job to go, full time on content creation, your foundation. So how is it? How has that been? And you know, what what's next? What do you have in mind to bring this foundation to be the biggest?
Yeah. So it's been a wild ride. So I quit my job in April of 2023 because I was going to launch a digital collectible on a massive platform, one of the biggest brands in the world. They may or may not have a smiley face, but anyways, I had partnered with them to launch a collectible that was going to raise anywhere from 500 to 700,000. And that was why I left my job, because I was like, okay, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm going to raise money for my foundation, which means then I can do so many different things probably for the next 2 to 3 years. Anyways, that partnership fell through. They've delayed it probably indefinitely now. I don't know when the launch date is, sometime next year, maybe. And so it's been tough, man. It's been hard. Like, luckily I had money saved up. And so you can imagine the roller coaster of like my wife, you know, women are very practical. And so my wife's like worried about stuff. She's worried about, hey, are we going to be okay? And my mindset is always just like, I got it. I'll figure it out. Whatever I got to do, I'm going to do. I have the work ethic. But it's been tough, man. I mean, cause I'm the provider for her and I want her to feel secure. And so, yeah, lots of nights crying because I don't know what's actually going on. I don't know where am I supposed to go to make money? Like, do I give up on this? Raising money for a foundation when you have $0 is actually incredibly tough. And that's just something I didn't know. And
Mhm.
so just learning, every day, learning about myself. And then my X account got suspended,
Yeah.
which was a huge hit. And, I'd spent so much time away from my family building that, just so much time in general building that and giving to the community that supported me. And so I was going through like a lot of different mixed emotions. And I finally just realized, listen, the mission doesn't stop. Like, I'll just create a new account and keep going. And yeah, it's tough. It's a setback, but it's obviously for a reason. And I'm just going to keep rolling. And then something I decided to launch probably about like a month and a half ago is I'm going to launch a small digital collection on November 8th. And it's going to be for my foundation to fund my first initiative, what's called a gratitude growth. And it's going to be basically a donation. And there's a bunch of things that are involved in that. And I'm really excited. I've been sharing it with people in the space, and everybody's been, I would say 99% of people have been super supportive, and that's what matters to me. And so even though I lost my account, I didn't lose those connections, and I still built a very strong brand, and that's what matters to me.
So what's next for Hyped? What do you want to build?
Oh my gosh, so much, so much. So yeah, if the mint goes well, which I just praying the mint goes well, there's so many things, right? So I'll go into schools immediately. Probably the goal will be spring, but maybe next fall where I develop a ton of curriculum and start volunteering at schools to teach kids about gratitude, because that's the first initiative that I want to talk about. Doing different processes with kids and really teaching them about the roots of gratitude and what it can do. And so I think, the benefits that, or the advantages that I have as GT, as Gentle Tornado, is like my baseline is vulnerable, right? I don't have a non-vulnerable bone in my body. And so that's the fastest way to connect with anybody, especially teenagers, right? And so that's what I've been gifted with. And I want to share that with kids because I want to help them. And the second thing is I've lived it. Like, I've trained myself to be more grateful. I wrote in a gratitude journal for 5 years. I've done gratitude day videos, right? And so I'm the proof, and I've always been the example. And I want that to be the case because I think being a true example is huge, because a lot of people talk a big game these days and they don't do anything. And so that's just the absolute opposite of who I am. And that's the absolute opposite of what I'm trying to accomplish with my foundation. And so I know by being that example, it's just showing these kids that I'm in the dirt. Like, look, like, I've been through it. You know what I mean? I've been through tough times. We've all been through tough times. There's kids that didn't have parents that have made it. And so kind of just educating not only on the science of gratitude, but showing them the power of gratitude and teaching them that through different processes. And then there's all kinds of stuff, man. I want to develop like software that gamifies emotions,
Mm,
because I think that's a key to success, especially just in our world. Our world wants, rewards for doing stuff. And, I don't like that, but I know how that works. And so I'll reward them. And so something that's interesting about my foundation is that, well, if I create this software and I go to gamify gratitude, and it's like, okay, how about you write in your gratitude journal for 10 days in a row and you might get a $30 gift card somewhere? Well, that $30 gift card could be donated from a bigger company. Okay. How about this month we're focused on gratitude and these are the tasks you have to do? And here's a leaderboard, and you go and you start doing these things, and now you win a $5,000 vacation. But that was all donated by whoever else. So that's kind of the advantage that I think I have as a nonprofit, and getting these things donated, where once I can start proving myself in the real world, in the nonprofit world, I'm just going to crush, because I'm going to build a huge brand with my foundation. It's not just going to be me in schools. Like, I'm going to have content all day long. I'm going to have testimonials. I know how that game works. And a
mhm.
lot of traditional foundations and nonprofits, they don't do a lot of content because they don't.
You're not very modernized.
Yeah, and that's where I live, right? And especially with teenagers, dude, you have to be cultured.
Of
You
course.
have to be super cultured in the dirt. And that's just kind of how I've always been.
I love that. And um, why gratitude? Like, what, it might be a little bit of a stupid question, but what made you realize that that's the power for everything? And maybe you can share on your gratitude videos because that streak has been amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So being in a job that I hated so much, and honestly, like, if anybody's ever worked for their parents, it is incredibly tough. So that was hard. Working for my dad was really hard, because, it's kind of like submitting to his, leadership, even though I didn't agree with a lot of things that he did, but
Mhm.
just being the best employee, just showing up every day, being the best employee, being super humble. And and I rose to the top. At one point I was top 5 in the nation, in the world. And I didn't care. I didn't do it because of those things. I did it because of him, and I wanted to, and for my family. And so, yeah, like, I realized that I needed to lean into gratitude because I was hating the job so much, and so I was bringing that home, and that was an issue. And so, how could I develop gratitude, or how could I be just happier with my life, right, and not complain? And I just started writing in a gratitude journal one day. Like, no one had inspired me actually. It was just I got a journal and I just started writing what I was grateful for every single day. And when I started, I probably went like once every 3 days. Well, then it was, okay, I need to get better. I always like push myself, right? So it was like, okay, once every 3 days, I need to do twice every 3 days. Then it was every day. And so developing habits around that and being consistent with that. And what it turned into was me just writing my feelings down. It was a lot of gratitude, but it was also just me writing down my feelings, negative
Morning.
feelings. And yeah, dude, I just realized how much that leveled up my life, just writing down my feelings, but also being rooted in gratitude where I just stopped complaining about stuff because I was so grateful. And the, the definition of gratitude is when you knowing you have it already. Right? You have everything you in your life. And so when you know that, you're truly grateful. And I think that's where I started to really level up. And then, evolving, over 5 years, then I started gratitude day videos on X. And that was just crazy. I don't know why. I just was like, I just need to do more and I want to share with the world gratitude. And so just did that. Now I'm on like, I don't know, 610 or something like that of every day. And it's
Crazy.
just kind of showing, right? My motivation has always been to be undeniable. It's always that way. Even back to when I played football and sports and stuff, it's like I want you to be able to not what are you going to say bad about my brand? Because I don't care if you say something bad, but I want to show you that this is what I'm about. This is what I'm going to say. This is what I'm going to do. And that's there's power in that because people's words don't mean anything anymore. When you have a strong word and you actually follow through with what you say you're going to do, that's extremely powerful.
Yeah, every single time I hear the word gratitude, I think of GT. I love it. There's this quote I love about gratitude too, which is gratitude as an attitude creates blessings.
Yeah.
And if you live by that, it will create blessings.
Yeah.
I love it. GT, talk to me about being a father. I know you're really young and you have 3 kids. Talk to me about what that's taught you for your brand, for hyped, and just in life.
Yeah. So I honestly, I would probably start with being a husband first because, my wife's everything to me. And we had a crazy story, but it ended up, where we just both wanted kids and we were so committed to being a mom and a dad.
Hmm.
And so we had kids early. But we had like 3 miscarriages, which is actually pretty common that people don't talk about. But we had a really bad one. And so that was a crazy journey, which rooted us even more in gratitude, right? Because when we had our first son, Bo, we had already gone through we lost 3 babies. And so it was like the best thing that could have ever happened to us. We had already wanted that, but we had gone through this crazy journey of losing these kids and then getting to this point. It was like, wow, this is not only what we've wanted our entire life. I wanted to be a dad since I was like 7 years old. And so now we've made it to this point. Man, what it's taught me is everything. Being a parent, being a good parent is the hardest thing in the world. I will say that. I will say being a good parent is super hard. You can be a parent and just skate through life and not give your kids the full attention, but you truly have to be selfless to be a really good parent. And that's something that's super hard. Because maybe I want to watch football on a Saturday, but if my kids want to watch something else, man, like I'd rather hang out with them and watch what they want to watch because they're more important than my, wants like that. And so it's taught me so much, man. I mean, I remember this story with my son Blake, my middle son. He never slept. He was like the worst sleeper. And when I worked for my dad, I used to wake up super early, like 4 a.m. And I still wake up at like 4:30, but I was to wake up at 4 a.m., get my stuff together, then leave for work. It was always a long drive. And he would always wake up in the middle of the night. And I always used to remember being so angry just because I was like, why aren't you sleeping? Why am I waking up in the middle of the night? And then my whole day was ruined. And I remember this one moment where I was getting angry for no reason at him. And I just flipped that perspective of, no, I get to go up here. I get to be with him. I get to soothe him. I get to be that person that takes care of him when he's crying. And, it was a privilege. And once I switched that to a privilege, like that even transformed me being a dad more. And so everything's a privilege, man. When I have kids, I mean, some people can't even have kids. Some people live in third world countries. Um, it's just a blessing, man. Every single day I learn so much from them. And normally every time I talk about them, I start crying. Like when I spoke at VeeCon, I started talking about my kids. I almost cried. I'm a really emotional guy, and I'm just so proud of them. My kids are really well behaved, and that's a lot of work that me and my wife have done. And that's like just our job. I feel like that's my job, is be to teach my kids to be good people and to be good in the world and to do good. And I always tell them as my favorite job is being a dad.
Mhm.
And yeah, man, they literally are everything to me.
I love that, man. Sorry. If this is my dog. If you don't mind talking about the story of your kid Braxton, and maybe what about his story and him has transformed or inspired you, because it's not only affected you but everyone you share it with. It's incredible.
Yeah, so so my son Braxton is the youngest of my three kids, of my three boys, and just the happiest kid. Just the happiest kid ever. And we have like all of our kids are super happy, but this guy is different. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, he's different. He's built different." And we got super involved in our church like over the last couple years. And when we go to church, the kids go to what's called Kids Life, and they go to like the nursery. So Braxton will go to the nursery because he was young. And this lady, Jennifer, told us after one day she watched him, she was like, "Hey, I think you should look at his feet. I don't think his feet are right." And, for anybody that doesn't have babies, when you have a baby, like babies look weird, right? They got weird stuff. You don't think a lot about it. It's like maybe his feet were just weird. They'd be fine. They would grow out of it, or they just look, babies are just babies, right? So we didn't think anything of it, but we took him like right after she told us, we took him to the doctor. And, I'll never forget it. My wife took him and I was with the other two boys. And the first doctor we went to told us what it was called. It was called vertical talus. And so what that is your bone in your ankle, your talus is supposed to be vertical, and his was horizontal. So his feet bent
Mhm.
out. And so normally, the normal thing that kids would have if they had a condition like this is called clubfoot. And that means your feet go inwards. That's much more common, and doctors know how to handle that. Well, vertical talus is much different, and a lot of doctors have never dealt with it. It's like one in every 50,000 kids or something gets it. I
Wow.
don't know the stat, but it's more rare. And so
Mhm.
that was like the scary part, was that if doctors had never done anything with it, like you're basically we're putting our kid's life in your hands and you've never dealt with it. And so the first doctor we went to was really intense, like scared the crap out of my wife, was telling my wife we need to do surgery immediately. He's going to be in casts for like a year. He's going to be in braces. He might not be able to walk for 3 years. And so you can imagine how intense that is. You know, when you have a kid, anytime they get hurt, you want to be able to take that from them. Like you don't want them to be hurt. And so I was pretty calm actually at first. And then we didn't go to that doctor. We went to another doctor 2 days later. And this guy was really good, very straightforward. He has worked on vertical talus doctors. And so we went with him and we started the cast that day. So we
Wow.
found out like Sunday was when Jennifer, that lady at church, told us about his feet. We went and got checked on Monday. That was the bad doctor. Then we went on Wednesday. On Wednesday, he got a cast on his right foot, but
Wow.
his right leg. So it went all the way up to like his hip. And I just remember my wife, we got out of the doctor and I wasn't allowed to go back actually to be with him. So it was just my wife and him. And I remember we got in the car and my wife just started crying. And he just cried the entire time they put the cast on. And so that was heartbreaking because he was so happy. Right? He was such a happy kid. And so we're like, why is this happening? Why is he going through this? Why is he going to have a cast on his foot or his leg for the next 6 months that they have to change every single week? So they have to change the cast every single week, which is so intense.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was a tough, probably first week. And I remember when we got his cast, my wife was distraught and I was super upset and I just didn't know how to handle it. We'd never been through anything like this. And by Saturday, so 3 days post cast, he was climbing the stairs with me. So I just knew at that point, like Braxton was going to be fine. And it's still a journey, right? Because you still have to go to those appointments and you still, you get to watch him cry and scream through them putting on a cast or taking off the cast. And that's an experience that we will never forget. And then his second foot, they realized his second foot had a minor case of vertical talus. And we didn't want to cast it. We were like, we'll just not cast it and we'll see what happens. And so anyways, we did, a lot of research and a lot of, praying, and we're like, okay, we'll cast the second leg. And so taking his second leg away from him to where he had 2 casts was just absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, I remember crying in the office with my wife, and just those emotions. It really, brought me and my wife together even stronger than we already were. And it brought the family together. My older kids didn't really know any different. They just were there for Braxton. But
Mhm.
dude, the best part about Braxton was every day he was happy, every single day. And so I just started documenting him and his journey, because I was just like, this kid is different. This kid is so inspirational to us because he's so happy. So everybody loves him. He's got the sweetest face. He just never complained, man. And that just inspired us to be even better, where, dude, this guy's in casts right now after 1 years old. So he'd probably be walking normally after at 1 years old. And he's just going, dude. He's not letting anything stop him. He's crawling everywhere. He was climbing stairs. It didn't matter. He was going down the stairs. And, you know, we had to have surgery after 6 months of casts. And that was scary. That was really scary for me because I had surgery on my
Mhm.
leg. And that was when I started like really getting emotional about it. And the scariest thing for me was like anesthesia, right? You put a kid under, you just don't know, that young, you just don't know. And so we went to the first surgery, and Braxton had like a cold, and we had gotten checked by a doctor the day before, because you have to get approved by a doctor to then go to surgery. And so the doctor said he's fine. Like his lungs are all good. He can go under anesthesia, even though he's got a slight cold. Well, then we went to the doctors, and the anesthesiologist was like, no, absolutely not. Like he's going to die. Like he would die in there if we did surgery. And just her saying that, she still gave us the option. She was like, we can have surgery, but he could die in surgery because he has this cold. And just hearing, her say that, it was just honestly like pretty traumatic to hear that and to feel that. And she was a great anesthesiologist. But that was intense. And so we had to reschedule the surgery, which meant he was in cast for like another 4 weeks. We had to
Mhm.
just basically isolate him from the world, because we're like, we don't want him to get sick again. We got to get this surgery done. And that was a really hard time. Our boys are crazy active. They run, they play, they're literally insane all day. They're mini tornadoes, dude. They're crazy. They don't stop. And so it was really hard being in the house for like 3-4 weeks, not doing anything, because we just had to prioritize Braxton. And, the day of the surgery when he was good, my wife was just in ruins. I just remember holding her while she was crying. She was holding Braxton. Braxton was just pissed. It was like 5 a.m. We did the surgery, and I just had to be super strong. Like that's what I needed to be for the family, was that strong person that was just holding the family together. And that was tough, right? Because I'm emotional. Like I want to cry, but I was just there for my wife. I was there for Braxton. And he went back, and the surgery went literally perfect, and he's been great. And then he put casts again on him for another few weeks, and now he's been no casts, braces. He just started walking a few weeks ago. Just an inspiration, man. Just keeps pushing. He just doesn't stop. So like, a couple things is like, he's obviously my kid, so that's dope. The second thing is he just smiles through everything, smiles through the pain, and he just inspires us to be not only grateful, keep pushing, but be happy, because your circumstances don't make who you are. And that was everything, man. And he's still an inspiration to many. He still embraces walking, running. He's just doing whatever, man. He's just being a kid and loving it, dude.
I love it, man. He's riding.
He's absolutely riding. Braxton is always riding.
Talk to me about that too. Where did riding come from?
Riding is interesting, dude. Riding is super interesting. So when I first got into Web3, and like when I started my X account, Twitter, whatever, I just was, posting every day, posting grateful stuff, being in communities, not doing too much. And then I realized like I needed to do more. And so I started getting on Twitter spaces, and I started just going crazy. And all I would do is I would go up on the Twitter space, and I would just show love. Like I would just show love for all the people hosting the spaces or anybody on stage, and I'll go crazy. I would just be like, we're absolutely riding. That's how I would always finish it. And I don't even know why, and then it evolved into so much more, where, I mean, dude, when I went to New York City for NFT NYC and I spoke at it last year, there had to be over 500 people that stopped me and said, "We are riding." And so I knew it. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
this is a movement. This is something that really resonates with people. And the cool thing about it is, it's like, why do you ride? That's the whole motivation. It's like, why do you ride? Well, I ride for my family, my kids, my wife, always, doesn't matter. I ride for gratitude, positivity, whatever my mission is why you ride. And on the darkest days, you can still ride. And on the highest days, you're riding. Because that's just how life works, right? We have those down days, we have those up days, but we always ride. We're always, if we wake up, we are riding. Like, that's the bottom line. And so in dark times, you can ride, and in high times, you can ride. And so I think that's
Always
why I
right.
caught on.
Love it. VeeCon. Talk to me about VeeCon. You went main stage. It was beautiful. I saw the videos, everything. I want to know everything about it.
Yeah, man. VCon was crazy, man. I dreamed about being a motivational speaker like my entire life. And so the fact that that came to fruition on the VCon stage was pretty wild, because Gary Vee changed my life. You know, he just transformed my business life when I was working for my dad, and created just so many core skills of accountability and stuff like that, and eliminating excuses. And so to open up VCon for him was something super special, man.
Wow.
Something that just is crazy over these like last 9 or 10 years of this journey in my life. And I'll never forget, when I got the call from Daniel, who's the community manager for V Friends. And we got on the call, and I had no idea why we were doing the Zoom or whatever. And he was like, "Okay, now I got to talk to you about, why I called you." And so I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "We want you to open VCon with a keynote."
Wow.
I did one of those things where I leaned back in my chair like this, and it was like my whole life flashed before my eyes. And I thought he was joking. I said, are you serious right now? Like, you want me to open it?" He's like, "Yeah. And we want you to MC it if you're down." I'm like, "Yeah, there's absolutely no way I wouldn't MC it. I mean, I'm opening it. I'm going to stay there." Yeah. And so it was cool, man. It was cool because the community came out and really supported me. And that was just a humbling experience. And, what was super cool after I spoke was it wasn't a very long keynote. And so I knew that I wanted to make it super impactful and just share from my heart, just be me, just be GT and be authentic. And I had multiple people come up to me after and say that they had never even known who I was, and what I spoke about really hit them.
Wow.
And those are just things that happen that really cements what I'm doing and why it matters. And like, the personality that I have is going to be the brand that takes me places and takes the Hype Foundation places. And
Of
I've
course.
always known that, that I have that personality, but now I want to give it to the entire world and help people in any way. And so, dude, truly life changing. It's going to open up so many opportunities for me to speak places, and I want to be the expert in gratitude. That's my goal, is to be the gratitude guy. And I'm going to learn about gratitude. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to know everything about gratitude. And I'm going to bring enthusiasm when I speak about gratitude. And I think that's the difference, is a lot of people don't speak with enthusiasm. They don't know that true energy. Well, that's what I want to do.
I love that. I love that, man. There's this question you've asked a lot on your podcast that I wrote down because um it kind of hit,
Okay.
and I want to ask you, do you stay true to yourself?
Always. Always, man. Yeah. I just overemphasize on it. I have to, because in this world, and in just today's world, it's so easy to slip up. And so just I've just been living it for so long. Kind of like what I said, I'm just super vulnerable, man. I just am just GT every day, all day. I'll share anything about my life with people. And sometimes that's a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I shouldn't be sharing stuff, but it's just me. I just am honest, man. And I was talking to my uncle last night. He came over. I hadn't seen him in a while. I was just sharing with him stuff that about, my family and stuff like that, that normally you wouldn't share with someone that you hadn't seen in a while. But that's just literally me. And that's the power that I have. And so I always tell people, like, if you haven't ever met me online, or if you've never met me in person and you like me online, you're going to love me in person, because I'm 10x GT in person. I
Yeah.
might not be as crazy as far as like screaming we're riding, but man, the authenticity that I have inside of me it's just truly who I am.
Hmm. I love it, man. Kindness and empathy being a superpower.
Yeah,
Why is it a superpower?
dude. I mean, first of all, kindness, I think grace and showing people grace and kindness is everything, because we live in a world with a lot of selfishness and a lot of entitlement. And so when someone treats you bad and you show them that kindness, one, the look on their face is something that you cannot recreate anywhere else. But two, just showing them that you can still be a good person while someone is coming down on you hard, man, that's true power. So that's where empathy comes into play, is where with my foundation, I think a huge focus, especially on bullying these days, is these kids don't have confidence. And so when you don't have confidence and you're getting bullied, you get down on yourself. But in
Mhm.
reality, if you deploy empathy, the person that's bullying you is in a way worse place than you, man. And so if I can make empathy and kindness cool, and if I can show people like it's cool to be these things, dude, that is going to help with bullying so much because kids are going to start deploying compassion and empathy on those people that are bullying them. And that just shows someone like, hey, you can keep treating me like this, but I'm just gonna be kind and show you my grace and show you who I am. And so I think that's why it's so important. It's so important to make these things cool because being angry and being entitled and being a jerk is not cool. That people have like this social image of that it's cool, but it's just not, man. It doesn't work in the real world. It can only get you so far. You can only fake it to make it.
Mhm. What brings you most joy in life?
Oh man. The most, probably three things. Probably my wife, my kids, and then helping other people.
Why?
Those are, yeah. Say what?
Why?
Why are those three things, or why the helping other people?
Why helping the other people? Sorry.
Um, I don't know, man. I just want to help people. That's just what I've just been so supportive my whole life, and that's just a quality that I have.
Mhm.
And seeing other people win and believe in themselves is something that gives you so much just serotonin and dopamine into your brain. Not even dopamine, like serotonin, which is the longer lasting chemical for happiness. It's just I have this ability to help people see what's inside them, man. And I just think everybody's dope in their own way. And if I can help that person realize that they're dope, I mean, dude, that could change their entire life. And so if I can make one person breathe easier, I mean, that's the goal. That's a successful life in my mind.
Love it. To finish this off, man, I would love for you to share any piece of advice to me or to the audience listening to the show. Anything.
Okay. Man, one piece of advice. What do I want to give? Yeah, I would just probably say lean into yourself. Lean into being yourself completely and authentically. And it's going to be hard. It's super hard. You're going to lose friends. You're going to lose family. It's not easy, but you will have such a better fulfilled life and you will create relationships that are rooted in just genuine people, and genuine relationships are something that are super hard to find. But when you do find them, they're so powerful. And so I would say, man, believe in yourself because anything's possible if you put the work in and you're willing to be your authentic self, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself and who you are and the values that you have.
I love that, man. Thank you so much. And to close this off, I need a we are riding.
I can't scream because the kids are in the house, but we are absolutely riding.
I fucking love it, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, my guy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for making this happen.
Yeah, of course.
Give me a second.